Have you ever wondered what happened right after Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden? The world was brand new, and humanity's story was just beginning. This is where we meet two brothers, Cain and Abel. Cain was a farmer, working the soil, while his younger brother Abel became a shepherd, tending to his flocks. As time went on, both decided to bring an offering to God. Cain brought some of the fruit from his harvest, and Abel brought the best portions from his firstborn lambs. But God looked with favor on Abel's offering and not on Cain's. This single moment of rejection planted a seed of jealousy that would grow into a terrible tragedy, a choice that would echo through generations and forever mark the human story. What happened next? Let's dive in. Subscribe to find out. After Adam and Eve were cast out of Eden, the world was no longer the same. The memory of walking with God in the garden lingered like a distant, holy, and painful echo. But even outside the garden, life continued. Eve conceived and gave birth to his son Cain. Her words were full of hope. "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." Cain's name meant acquisition, strength. He was the firstborn of humanity. Later, Eve bore another son, Abel. His name was quieter, meaning breath or vapor, something fleeting. From the very beginning, his name hinted at impermanence. The brothers grew up. Cain became a worker of the ground, tilling the same soil that was cursed because of his father's disobedience. He labored with sweat and effort. Abel, however, became a keeper of sheep. He lived close to the cycles of life and death, learning patience and gentleness. Time passed, and one day, both brothers brought offerings to the Lord. Cain brought fruit from the ground, the produce of his hard work. But Abel brought the firstborn of his flock, the very best he had to offer. The scripture tells us the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not. Why? It wasn't that Cain's offering was inherently bad. The difference was in their hearts. Abel offered the first and the best in faith, acknowledging that everything belonged to God. Cain's offering, on the other hand, seems to have come from a place of obligation, not surrender. He approached God as if God was simply a receiver of effort, not a discerner of hearts. And Cain became very angry. His face fell. But God didn't reject him. Instead, he warned him. "Why are you angry?" God asked. "If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." This is the first time in the Bible that sin is described as a living force, a predator waiting to pounce. Cain was at a crossroads. He could choose humility or let resentment consume him. He chose resentment. He didn't master sin. Instead, he let sin master him. One day, while he and Abel were out in the field together, Cain rose up against his brother and killed him. The first death in human history wasn't from old age or an accident. It was murder. Abel's blood soaked into the very soil Cain had worked so hard to cultivate, and that ground itself became a witness against him. Then the Lord's voice came again, "Where's your brother Abel?" Cain's reply has echoed through thousands of years of human history. "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" It's a question filled with defiance, guilt, and a desperate attempt to sever responsibility. But God knew. "What have you done?" he said. "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." The judgment wasn't immediate death, it was exile. Cain, the man who worked the ground, was now cursed from it. He would become a restless wanderer, cut off from the stability he so desperately sought. The man who tried to secure his place through violence lost his place entirely. Yet, even in this heavy judgment, there was a strange sliver of mercy. God placed a mark on Cain not as a sign of approval, but as protection, so that no one who found him would kill him out of vengeance. So Cain departed from the presence of the Lord. He settled in the land of Nod, a name that means wandering, forever east of Eden. He was a man carrying the weight of guilt, fear, and separation. There, Cain built a city, naming it after his son. His descendants became builders, musicians, and inventors. The civilization grew, but so did violence. Generations later, one of Cain's descendants, Lamech, would boast of killing a man and declare a 77-fold vengeance, showing how the seed of Cain's anger had grown into a legacy of bloodshed. But what about Abel? Though he was dead, his story wasn't over. He became a symbol of righteousness without power, of faith without earthly reward. His life became an image of the innocent, the one whose goodness exposes the darkness in others. Adam and Eve mourned the loss of two sons, one to death, the other to exile. But God's grace had not ended. He granted them another son, Seth, whose name means appointed. Eve said, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Through Seth's line, people once again began to call upon the name of the Lord. Hope was rekindled, not through human strength or ambition, but through simple faith. The story of Cain and Abel is far more than just an ancient account of sibling rivalry. It's a foundational story about choice. It teaches us that what we bring to God is less important than the heart with which we bring it. It's a powerful warning about the danger of envy, anger, and resentment, and how they can fester into devastating actions if we don't master them. It shows us that every day, we stand at a similar door where sin is crouching, desiring to have us. We are all faced with a choice to either rule over it or be consumed by it. Are we our brother's keeper? The story suggests that yes, in a profound way, we are. Our choices ripple outwards, affecting those around us, our community, and the generations to come. It's a timeless lesson on the consequences of sin, the cry of justice, the persistence of God's mercy, and the enduring hope of a new beginning. Thanks for watching. If this story spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share. Cain walked east of Eden, farther and farther from the place where humanity first knew God's presence. He was marked for protection, yes, but he was also marked by memory. The sound of his brother's voice, the heavy feeling of blood crying out from the ground, and that one question he could never escape: where is your brother? In this new, unstable world, Cain tried to build something permanent. He took a wife, and she gave him a son named Enoch. Cain then built a city and named it after his son, as if he could anchor his legacy in stone and structure. You see, where Abel had offered life up to God, Cain sought to preserve life through walls, names, and the works of human hands. From Cain's line came builders, craftsmen, and innovators. His descendants shaped civilization itself. They forged tools of bronze and iron. They developed music, art, and industry. Humanity advanced, but its heart drifted further from God. Among Cain's descendants was a man named Lamech, and his words reveal just how fractured the human soul had become. Lamech took 2 wives, breaking the original design of unity God had set in Eden. He boasted openly about killing a man for merely wounding him, declaring a vengeance far more extreme than Cain's punishment. Cain acted in secret and trembled before God. Lamech acted in pride. Violence was no longer hidden, it was celebrated. The line of Cain shows us something very sobering. Progress without God does not heal the human heart. Creativity without humility turns into corruption. Strength without reverence becomes destruction. Cain's descendants filled the earth, but they did not restore it. Cain himself eventually fades from the pages of Scripture, but his meaning does not. His fate wasn't an immediate death, but a prolonged separation. He lived, he built, he fathered, and he moved forward, but always east of Eden, always outside the presence of the Lord. His life is a stark warning. Survival is not the same as salvation, and worldly success is not the same as righteousness. But what about Abel? Though silent in death, he continued to speak through his legacy. His life was short, but his faith endured. He represents the righteous who suffer, the faithful who go unseen, the innocent whose blood cries out, not for revenge, but for justice. Abel's offering showed the posture God desires, not perfection, but surrender. Meanwhile, Adam and Eve lived on, their lives a mix of sorrow and hope. They had seen death enter their world through their own children. They buried one son and watched the other walk away into exile. Yet, God had not abandoned them. In time, Eve bore another son, Seth, whom she said was appointed by God in place of Abel. And through Seth's descendants, something began to change. People started to call upon the name of the Lord again. Worship returned. Reverence was stirred. A quiet line of faith ran alongside the louder, more visible march of violence and pride. Where Cain's line pursued power, Seth's line pursued presence. Where one built cities, the other built altars. Adam lived for many years, witnessing both the devastating consequences of sin and the incredible patience of God. Eve carried the memory of Eden, the sharp pain of loss, and the promise that God would still bring redemption through humanity. The story of Cain and his descendants teaches us that sin isn't just a single action, it's a direction. One path leads further from God, even while it looks productive and successful. The other path leads back toward him, even when it's marked by weakness and humility. Cain chose resentment. Abel chose faith. And to this day, humanity continues to choose between these 2 paths. This isn't just the story of the first brothers, it's a story of every human heart. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one. Ever wonder what the ancient story of Cain and Abel has to do with us today? It's more than just a tale of 2 brothers. It's a powerful lesson about our hearts and our choices. When Cain and Abel brought their offerings to God, it wasn't just about what they gave, but why they gave it. God saw their hearts. Abel offered his best with a sincere heart, while Cain's offering was given with a different spirit. This reminds us that our intentions matter deeply. Every day we make choices. Are we acting out of love, gratitude, and sincerity? Or are we just going through the motions? This ancient story is a mirror, reflecting our own inner world and challenging us to live with purpose and genuine faith. If this message resonates with you, join us at Sacred Voices of Faith. We explore these timeless truths and what they mean for our modern lives. Subscribe to our channel, reflect with us, and let's walk this journey of faith together.